Chumash and Rashi, the Torah portion. The Torah portion. Yisro. We get the 10 Commandments today. Let's get right into it. So gesund. So gesund.
Thank you.
Okay, folks.
Lanu velachem.
L'chaim, l'chaim, everybody. L'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'bracha.
Lanu lebracha.
Wow. Okay, we are in chapter 19 in the second book. Shmois, Exodus, verse 20. Vayered Hashem, and Hashem descended al Har Sinai on Mount Sinai. El Rosh Hahar, to the top of the mountain, Yikra Hashem, and he called Hashem LaMoshe, he called to Moshe. El Rosh Hahar, to the top of the mountain. Bial Moshe, and Moshe went up. Wow, wow. It's happening. Verse number 20. Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, and Hashem descended on Mount Sinai. Yochel Yared Alav Mamish. One might think, based on this verse, that he actually descended on it. Talmud Leimer, but the verse says otherwise. So this is in chapter 19, but in chapter 20, coming up soon, the verse is going to say that I spoke from heaven, right? So did he descend, or did he speak from heaven? What's going on? This teaches us that he bent upper and lower world, and spread them over the mountain. Like a sheet on a bed. He say, and the throne of glory descended upon them. Thus, what did he do? He's bending the heavens. So God was both in the heavens and on Mount Sinai simultaneously. Okay, that's of course very metaphoric, and
Isn't Hashem everywhere anyway?
So good question. Isn't Hashem everywhere? He's everywhere, but not revealed. Here, he became revealed. Chaim, you asked the question. The answer is, he's everywhere, but not revealed everywhere. Here, he's revealed. He's everywhere, but in a hidden way. He's right here in my cup of coffee, animating it, but it's hidden. There, he was revealed. That's the difference. Okay? Verse 21, Vayemer Hashem, and Hashem said, El Moshe to Moshe, Reid. He said to him, descend, Ha'id, Ba'am. Warn, give witness. The word aid means witness, meaning here, in context, warn the people. Pen Yersu, unless they will be destroyed. Yersu means destroyed. El Hashem, to Hashem, lirois, in order to see, because God's being revealed. God's hidden in this world, but now he's going to be revealed. So this will be destructive. Lirois, v'nafal mimenu rav, and there will fall many among them. Rashi. Ha'id ba'am. Warn the people. Asra behem shalil las bahar. Warn them that they should not come up the mountain. All right. In other words, very simple, folks. When you have a great revelation of godliness, you're going to be drawn towards it. You want to go there, and you want to be enveloped by it. God says, don't do that, because they're not refined enough, like Moshe Rabbeinu, that they could get that experience the way he is up on the mountain. So for them, it'll be destructive. Right? That's what it means.
Butterfly attracted to the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
V'nafal min harav, and many would fall among them. Kol mashi yipol mehem, whatever number of them that would fall. Afilu hu yachidi, even if it's an individual. Chashuv levana yirav. Wow, that's considered like many. Even if it's going to be one person. In other words, sometimes you have to warn the whole group just for one person that they shouldn't do it because that one person is precious. Right? That's what God is. That's what we're saying here. That's the diuk in the words over here. We have to be careful that we're learning Rashi and being exacting in the words. And he says over here, right, that will fall from it. Right? It doesn't say naflu, that in plural that many will fall. It says nafal, it could be one will fall, right? And that is considered from me Rav like many. That's the exactingness in the words over here.
Like the exchange of the prisoners, For one Jew, they give thousands of Arabs.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily right. That's not right.
No?
That's not correct. It's true in the value, but it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. That's not necessarily the right thing to do. But that's a different story.
You see the value of a Jew.
Yeah. 100%. No.
There's no
In that,
price.
no, in that manner, it's correct, but not to come out of there that's a proper thing to do necessarily, because from there will come many more that will be destroyed because of it, right?
Yeah.
But that's not for now. That's a whole different kettle of fish. Yeah. Okay. Wow, but this is fascinating. Pen yehersu, lest they will be destroyed. Kol harisa mafresis asifas habinyan. Destruction separates the collection of a unity of parts of a structure. Interesting that he says that. Afa nefradim mimatzav anoshim. So too, separate from the position of the people. In other words, breaking ranks in something that is an organized assembly. Harsim is a matzav, you destroy the position. Wow. Aha. So Rashi, the word yehersu means destroy, but it usually means destroy of a structure, right? You destroy the building, right? Here we're talking about people. So there's an assembly of people. There's an organized, assembly of people. You're destroying that if someone would go up the mountain and break ranks. That's what Rashi is explaining.
Like you're breaking the assembly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, the Gama Kohanim, likewise the Kohanim, Hanigoshim will come close, El Hashem to God, Yiskachu, prepare themselves. Right here, the meaning Dashu comes from the word holy, but here it means in the context to prepare themselves. Pen Yifraitz Bahem Hashem, lest Hashem will breach against them. They have to be. Let's see what Rashi says in this. What is specific here? V'gama Kohanim, also the Kohanim. Who are the Kohanim over here at this point? The firstborn. The firstborn are Kohanim, right? There's no Kohen yet. Aaron didn't become a Kohen yet, right? Not at this point, right? Right? It'll be afterwards, after the sin of the golden calf, right? Because the firstborns were involved. The Levites were not involved. Right, and from Levites will come Aaron, who's a Levite, will come the Kohanim, right? But at this point, it's referring to the firstborn, as Rashi says, Hashem, who come close to Hashem, lahakriv karbonos, in order it's there, the ones who have to bring to the altar offerings, afheim yismechu al chashivusam la'aloi, should not rely on their God's importance that He put upon them, right? They can't ascend the mountain. Right? They have to prepare themselves. They should be ready to stand at their position. Not going up the mountain, right? Pen Yifraitz, lest God will make a breach. Lashon Pirza, this is an expression of breach. Yahareg Bahem, Yasu Bahem Pirza, meaning that God will kill among them because they make a breach of their position, right? Of their assembly. Wow. Okay, let's move on. 23. V'yemer Moshe el Hashem, and Moshe said to Hashem, Lo yuchal la'am la'alois al har Sinai. The people will not be able to ascend to Mount Sinai. Ki ata heidai sabanu, because you have warned us. Lamor saying, Hagbil is ahar v'kidashtei. Bound the mountain and sanctify it. Rashi 23. Lo yuchal, we're not able. Any tzarich lahayid beim. So Moshe is saying, I don't have to warn them. Because today they are already in this. They've been warned 3 days prior. They're not able to go up. Because they have no permission. Interesting that's what he comes back with, huh? When God tells him to do this and he's coming back, well, not necessary, because they've already been warned. And it's true, they were already warned because Hashem told already Moshe to do this. And this is what he comes back with. Interesting. Okay, please let in. Okay, 24. Love Hashem. And Hashem now responds and he says to him, Lech rei, go down. The Alisa to Aaron. Then you shall ascend, you and Aaron, Imach with you, the Kohanim, and the Kohanim, the Am, Al Yehersu, the Kohanim and the people, they shall not get destroyed, La'alois El Hashem, to ascend to Hashem, Pen Yifrat Bam, lest there will be a breach against them. Rashi 24. So why is Hashem is saying this? Interesting, he's telling about Aaron to go up also, right? So we need to understand that, because what was Aaron going up when he was involved in the golden calf afterwards, right? So he was with the people. Let's see what's going on over here. Lechre, go descend, valued by him, Shani's, warn them a second time. So Rashi explains, it's true what you said, that you warned them 3 days ago. But you have to warn in advance and at that moment too. Right? You have to warn people before and prior to the act. So you have to spur them on and warn them again at the time of the act. And now's the time. Then you shall ascend, Aaron with you, but the Kohanim, you might think that in this verse that Aaron, right, okay, that's the way I learned it, right? You might think that this verse is saying that Aaron and the Kohanim are also with you on the same level of the mountain. Talmud Loimar, no. The verse says that you will ascend. So say now that God is telling Moshe that you should make an area for yourself, cordon off an area for yourself, separate from them, right? And Aaron, he will have an area for himself, right? In other words, what does it mean he's with you? He's closer, he's not with you literally, but he's just like you have an area cordoned off, he also has an area cordoned off for him, right? That is higher than the other people. The Kohanim, they will have an area for themselves to distinguish themselves from the rest of the people. It comes out that Moshe will become closer to the divine presence than Aaron. And Aaron closer than the Kohanim, which are the firstborn at that time, right? The Am called Iker lo Yesu. But the people shall not destroy their position at all. To ascend at all to Hashem. Interesting. So if Aaron was there, then just to pay attention, it won't be now. It'll be in a couple of weeks when we have the sin of the golden calf, because he was with them by the sin. So maybe it was just when Hashem revealed himself on the 6th, 7th day of Sivan. And then later on, there was 40 days, and he went back down to the people. Yeah, okay, it's not a contradiction. I was thinking that, how was that? Okay, let's continue. We have to truck, folks, because we have a lot to do over here. Okay? And Moshe descended to the people, and he conveyed the instructions to them. This warning. Okay, we're going to the Ten Commandments now. I mean, the verse before, but we're going to the Ten Commandments. Are we ready? Yeah?
We have to stand?
Yeah, we have to be with awe and trepidation as the Ten Commandments are being read. Okay. Well, all of it. And Hashem spoke is Hadvarim Ha'ile. He spoke these words, Lamor, saying. Okay. Rashi V'daber Elokim. Why not Hashem? Why is it Elokim over here? But there's another book over here of Chitas if someone needs it. Someone needs a book? Dan, you need a book? No, you have? Yeah, okay. Fine. Okay. Ein Elokim Eladayin. So the divine name Elokim means over here judge, right? Exclusively. Why is the term judgment being used over here to introduce a Torah? Similarly, it says Elokim lo yisakala. You should not curse Elokim. Targumai Dayana. And Unclus renders there, explains it, judge. Because there are verses in the Torah that contain commandments, for which when a person does the mitzvah, performs the mitzvah, he gets a reward. But if he doesn't do them, he doesn't receive a punishment. So you might think the Ten Commandments is likewise, but it says otherwise, that Elohim spoke, right, which means God, the God will exact punishment if you don't keep the Ten Commandments. Other commandments, right, not necessarily you're going to get punished if you don't do it. The Ten Commandments, you get punished. How do you know that? How do you know you'll get punished? Anybody? Huh? Explain. No, let's say. Explain. Because it says the word Elohim, which the word Elohim refers to God as judge. Okay? Refers to God as judge. So the Ten Commandments, there is a judgment, meaning reward and punishment, for their fulfillment or lack of. Okay, next Rashi. All of these words, what does that do? 1 second. It's getting heated up over here in a very literal sense. And a figurative sense. Hopefully more in a figurative sense than a literal sense. Okay. Let's go to Dvarim Meila. All of these words. What's all of these words? This teaches us that God said the Ten Commandments in one utterance. Right? All of these things, Lamor, he said. What do you mean all of this he said? He said in one utterance. That's the implication.
How do we get that?
All of these words, he said in one utterance. Right? So continues Rashi. Mashi ef shel adam leimar kain. This is something impossible for a person to say. Im kain matam leimar. Oi, so if so, then why does the Torah say Anei Hashem Elokecha? So then why does it say, in other words, God spoke it, all 10 things, like we have to express one word at a time. Is God limited in his communication to say one word at a time? Is he? No, of course not. Right? He could say all of it at once. Now, we don't get that, how that, because we can't do it. But obviously, God is not limited to as we are limited to speech. I have to say, I am, this, that, one word, next word, right? We can only hear that way and we can only speak that way. God's got not that limitation. When he said the Ten Commandments, he said it all in one utterance. So then why does the Torah come and say all the details? I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land, and so on and so forth. Rashi continues and asks this question, right? Why does he say, Anei Hashem lo yeh lecha, I'm the Lord your God, and there should be no other gods before you, right? Because God, He went back and specified each and every statement individually. Commentators have a problem with this and say, like, why is Rashi? Obviously, God had to do this because otherwise we wouldn't be able to get the communication, right? So people have questions on Rashi over here. Okay, lay more, saying. What's the problem over here? Whenever Torah says God spoke, saying, if God spoke, obviously He's saying. So what does it say, saying? So, because who did He speak to? He spoke to Moshe. Oh, say it to the people. That's what lay more means. Say it to the people. But there's a problem over here. What's the problem over here? What's the problem in this lay more over here? All the people are there. They're all going to hear it from God. So what's the lay more? Who are you saying it to? Right? Follow the question? Yeah? Hello, I see blank stares. Did you follow the question?
Because they all heard at the same time. So why tell him to tell them?
Right. So then the word lay more is superfluous. So Rashi explains, what does it mean? This teaches us that the Israelites would answer yes with every positive commandment. When God said, keep Shabbos, the people said yes. They lay more means they responded. That's what it means over here. Right? But lav. And whenever God said, should be no other gods before you, so they answered, no, there won't be. Okay? It's a whole debate about this, by the way, which we won't go into it, which between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva.
But didn't the Jewish people only hear the two first?
Yeah, so it was on the first they said yes, on the second one they said no. Fine.
But it says they responded yes to the positive commandments.
Huh?
According to the note here, the Israelites responded yes to the positive.
So what does it mean? Okay, good question. But first one they said yes because that's a positive commandment. The second one is a negative commandment. They said no. So that's a simple explanation, but we need more than that. Okay, let's go. 10 Commandments now. First commandment. I am the Lord your God. That took you out of the land of Egypt. From the house of slavery. Rashi, in number 2. Excuse me. Who took you out of the land of Egypt? It is taking you out of Egypt is sufficient reason for me to make you my servant. Second. So the commentators explain in Rashi over here, what do you mean? God is the one who created heaven and earth. How come God is saying that I took you out of Egypt? Because that is coming to tell you, why am I giving you these commandments? In order that you should observe them, that you should be my servants. You should serve me, right? Why am I doing this? Because I took you out of Egypt for this purpose. And therefore, it is sufficient reason that you should fulfill now what I'm giving you because I took you out of Egypt. Okay, follow? Is everybody paying attention to it? Or like I see everybody's in a different bubble. Yeah? Let's be in the same bubble and let's follow.
Listening.
Test on this. It's the 10 Commandments, right? I said that, there's reward and punishment, God says, but it says Elohim over here. So no. Self-incrimination only. Another reason why it says that God took us out of Egypt, right? That's how he identifies himself, as opposed to creator of heaven and earth. Because God revealed himself by the splitting of the sea like a mighty warrior. But here God revealed himself as an old man full of mercy. Like the verse says later on in chapter 24, we'll have it, it's beneath the feet, which had the form of a brick of sapphire.
What does it mean, old man?
I mean, an old man who's compassionate, like an old man who's got great compassion and great love and devotion, and that's how.
No patience.
That's not the metaphor over here. That's the old man you know.
That's the old man the world knows.
No, not the old man that Rashi's talking about, right? Someone who's full of compassion, right? Why is an old man? Why a young person doesn't have compassion, right? Because they don't have, because they're full of themselves. An old man has gone through life experience, and because life experience makes you humble, right? Because of what you've gone through. Everybody's gone through pain and suffering, and because of that, right, you are humbled, and therefore you have compassion. That's the idea over here. Okay? And this brick was before God at the time of the enslavement, when a sign of God's suffering with the slavery of the Jewish people. Wow. Interesting. Right? So compassion comes from suffering. The more a person suffers, either they become a victim and they become the hateful, right? Or they become more compassionate, right? That's why young people are not naturally compassionate, because they haven't really suffered in life in the same manner as an older person. And they're young and they're just more full of themselves, because that's what youth means by definition, right? But and that's not bad. It's just the fact, right? Not an indictment. But so with that, you become more compassionate. So here is the compassion that God is showing to the Jewish people, that because they suffered and God's feeling that suffering. And something like the image of the heavens was before Hashem, once they were redeemed. Since I change appearances, I'll tell him. So what here? He's a mighty warrior, right? God appears as a mighty warrior by the splitting of the sea. And now he's appearing like this elder, compassionate individual who was there with us in our suffering, feels our suffering, and therefore has compassion, right? So what are you going to think? Oh, obviously it's two gods. There was Zeus, and over here is whatever, mother, whoever she was. Right? I'll tell you, but don't say that there are two divine powers here, because God appeared differently. What does it say? Anochi, it's I. I'm the one who took you out of Egypt. I'm the one who saw you at the sea. Now, how the sea gets in there with all of this, I don't get it. But that's a second explanation. Alternative explanation. It's a third explanation. Okay? God identifies himself through the Exodus. A third explanation why. Because the Israelites heard many sounds at the time of revelation at Mount Sinai, as we will see later on verse 15. We're only in verse 2 right now, when there will be a description of, now it's only telling us the Ten Commandments. Later will be a description. And the sounds were coming from four directions, and likewise from heaven and earth. So don't make a mistake and think there are many powers. Interesting. Why would you think it was the same? Coming from all different directions, there would be different. It's the same thing that God is saying. I'm not clear on that. Okay, let's continue. Why does it say, Rashi's bothered, that it says, I'm not the Lord your God in plural? It's saying it in singular form. Right? It should say, Elokechem. This is providing Moshe a defense for the Jewish people when they will sin with the golden calf. God knows what's going to happen. Right? They're going to sin with the golden calf. And this is what it says. And here it says singular. Why? Why? So, because Moshe later will say to God, why Hashem are you angry against the people? You didn't command them that they should not have elikim achirim, they shouldn't have any other gods. But you commanded me because you said, "I'm the Lord your God." Who was God? Who is he speaking to? To Moshe. You singular. So this is his argument, his defense for the Jewish people. Don't take it out on them. Hey, you only told me that that there shouldn't be any other gods. Follow? Yeah.
Since he spoke directly to Moshe, it could exclude the others.
Okay, you got to follow carefully what's being said. You have to be, if you're reading something else and if you're elsewhere trying to figure something else out, you're not following. Follow very carefully. Well, all right. The Rashi is bothered. Very carefully follow. Rashi is bothered. Why does it say, "I'm the Lord your God," singular? He's only one person's God. That was an opening that Moshe used. That you only spoke to me. God spoke to everybody, but this is his defense. Don't take it out on the people. You only spoke to me. You only spoke singular. So you only spoke to me. So therefore, don't be angry at them. I didn't sin with the golden calf, so you can't take it out on them. You only told me that there shouldn't be any other gods.
It's playing like a lawyer.
Exactly. So we got to be careful if we follow every single word that Rashi is telling us, and not try to be ahead or behind or whatever, because then we're losing. Every single word that's being said from Rashi is the point that we have to follow. Otherwise, we're missing, right? Okay, Beis Avadim, from the house of slavery or bondage. The Beis Parish Avadim Loi, from the house of Pharaoh where you were slaves. Or does it really mean from the house of bond, a house belonging to slaves? Is it the house of bondage of Pharaoh, or is it the house of your own belonging, your own house belonging to the slave? Implying that the Israelites were slaves, that they were slaves to slaves rather than slaves to Pharaoh. I'm not exactly, what that difference would make, but this Talmud Loimar, the verse says, so the verse says, later on in Deuteronomy, and the Rashi brings us over here to prove from Deuteronomy when we don't know about it yet, but he brings a verse from Deuteronomy that says that he redeemed us from the house of slaves from the hand of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. This teaches us that we were slaves to the king himself, but not slaves to slaves. Okay. That's interesting. I'm not exactly clear what the point in that is and why that is added. Chassidus explains, but we're not going to go there now. But on Pshuta Shemikra, I'm not clear. Okay. Second commandment, it should not be to you. And again, l'cha is what? Second person, singular. Not lachem, which would be plural. Right? You shouldn't have any other gods before me. Right? No other deities. Rashi in 3, lo yelecha, lo manema. Why is this said? Why is it say? Because it is said in the following verse, it says that you should not make a graven image. So, right? So if I can't make a graven image, right? So then I don't have anybody else to serve. So just say, don't make a graven image. And then of course, look, I won't have, right? So why is it saying don't have? So then I would conclude that one should not make an idol. So what's the source that if, let's say, I didn't make it, but there's already an idol, right? It's there already, that it's already been made, right? In other words, someone else made it, so I didn't make it. How do I know that therefore I can't have it? Lo yelecha, you shouldn't have, right? In other words, it's forbidden for you to have, not just to make something to have. Elokim acherim, other gods, she'enim elos, that they're not divine. Ela acherim, also elokim aleihem, but others have made them gods over them. Yeah, what does it mean, other gods? There's only one God. Other people made them gods over themselves.
Subjectively.
Exactly. It's not possible to explain other gods, that it means the other gods be other than me. Because that's an affront before God to call them other gods aside from Him. Right? You follow? That to say other God, like, it's like, like you're gonna say before the Rebbe, well, the mayor of New York is also like, a powerful person. Yeah, that's it. That's like, you're powerful, but the mayor of New York's also got power. That's not exactly honorable to say. I don't know if that was a good example, but just something that popped in my head. Right? In other words, it's not, so to say that, these other gods that are, other deities, there's God and there's other gods. That's not respectful to say before God. So what does it mean, other gods? That others make them into a god. Okay, that's one explanation. An alternative explanation, other gods, that they are others, they're strangers and others to those who worship them. They're worshippers, they cry out to them. But they don't answer. In other words, if the God were another, who never knew the worshiper. In other words, you go up to a guy and say, hey, Jack, what's doing? The guy looks at you, I know you from somewhere. So it's like, so that's the God. Their God is like, I know you from somewhere, right? In other words, you're strange to me. You're another. I don't know you, right? That's their gods. You cry out to them and they look at you. I know you from somewhere. That's what Rashi is saying. Okay, that's an alternative explanation of what it means, other gods. They look at you as an other, right? They don't look at you, best friend from 50 years ago. They don't look, right? I'll be there for you. That's not what their gods do. Alpon, thy before me. This is superfluous. Calls Machani Mikayam. So all the time that I exist, that you shouldn't say that it was only them that they were commanded, those who are present in Mount Sinai. Right? You say, because who did God command? He didn't command me. Right? He didn't command you. You weren't there. So it's only that generation was commanded. No. Alpanai means in my presence. God's presence is always, so therefore we're also commanded. Okay? Verse number 4. Oh boy. We gotta go. We got a truck. Do not make for yourselves pesel, a graven image, hold to muna, and any kind of image. Asher b'shamayim, that is a heavenly image, mimal from above, asher ba'aretz mitachas, or from the earth from below, asher b'mayim mitachas al-arz, and even beneath the waters. Rashi number 4, pesel, a graven image, al shem shenifsal. Why is it called pesel? Because it's been sculpted. Called tmuna. Tmuna is called asher b'shamayim, a picture of anything that is of heaven.
What does that mean, Rabbi? Like, imply that, for example, not to have decorations or something that's.
Don't make a picture. Here, this is a picture of God, of heaven. This is a picture of God above, right? And this represents me, right? In the end, what will it become? Idolatry, right? It will become idolatry. Okay. Huh?
Or in the water.
Or in the end, anything, right? Above, earth, and below. Of anything that will, you're going to make a bunch of fish in the water, and that's that's your god, or you're representing it as that will be idolatry. Lois ishtachav alehem, don't bow down to them. Lois avdeim, and do not serve them. Ki anei Hashem lekechatayim, Hashem your God. Kel kona, I'm a God of jealousy. Poikid ovain, I visit the sin of the fathers who do the sin, albanim, upon the children. Al shileshim, for 3 generations, ribeim, or 4 generations, l'soinai, for those who hate me. Ooh la la la. Verse number 5. Kelkon, a jealous God. It cannot be part of meaning I'm zealous to exact punishment. And God does not pass his attribute of strict judgment. To forgive the sin of idolatry. That's the idea of being zealous. The word kone, entraînement in Old French. That he concentrates on paying back what is due. For those who hate me, Kitargum, where there's understood according to Unkeles, that he remembers the sins of fathers against the children. When they hold the deed of their fathers in their hands, maintain their father's sinful behavior, and he guards kindness that the person and he repays the reward for those who do kindness for 2,000 generations. And if this turns out, the God's goodness of doing good is far greater than the punishment. A ratio of 1 to 500. Because for 4 generations, the bad that someone does will be inflicted, but the good that someone does will last for 200 generations. So 4 to 200 is a ratio of 2,000 rather, not 200. 2,000 is a ratio of 1 to 500. And this is 4 generations. And this is for 2,000. Why Rashi explains this over here? I mean, I understand why you would like to explain it, but how does it fit in with the words? I do not get. Because where does it suggest over here that the good get more? Not to say, huh? Oh, thank you. Yeah, the next verse. Oh, okay. Yeah, but then why is it explained on this verse, not in the next one? God does kindness for 2,000 generations to those that love him and observe his commandments. No Rashi. Oh no, Isei Chesed, sorry. God keeps and stores the compassion for those who do. Okay, you know what? In the Chumash I have over here, it brought it in verse 5. I read it already. And in this Chumash over here, it's in verse 6, which makes more sense to me. This Chumash is that I have, I think, is a different girsa, a different edition. That this one makes much more sense. It's here. Okay, verse number 7. Lois, he saw the 3rd commandment now. Lois, he saw. Sisa means to uplift. Here in this context, it means to take Shem Hashem Elokecha l'shav. Don't take God's name, Hashem, your God's name, l'shav, in vain. Ki lo yikane Hashem es asher yisa es shmo l'shav. For Hashem will not absolve somebody who takes God's name in vain. Verse number 7, l'shav, in vain, chinam, lehevel, for no reason, for foolishness. And what is an oath that's in vain? Someone who swears to change that which is known to be true, for instance. To say, oh, this pillar of stone is really a pillar of gold. Right? So, to take God's name and use that, that's taking God's name in vain. Right?
So it would look like what to swear? Like, I swear in God's name?
Yeah, it means that you're taking God's name and saying, oh, this table is a metal. You know, you're taking it in vain because it's not the truth, right? Okay, verse number 8. We're now the fourth commandment. Zachar, remember, it's Yom Shabbos, the day of Shabbos, the Kadshay, to sanctify it. Rashi, number 8, Zachar, remember. Zachar v'shamar, later on, in the book of Devarim, in Parshas Eschanan, the Ten Commandments will be repeated by Moshe Rabbeinu. And there it says Shomer, to guard the day, and here it says Zachar, to remember the day. So Rashi said, the God time he said it in one statement. So too, when the verses say, if they were said simultaneously, both to desecrate the Shabbos, you should be put to death of Yom Shabbos Shnei Kvasim, and then on the Shabbos day, to bring 2 lambs as an offering. So that's an example of where he said 2 things at the same time, right? Again, God has that capacity. Likewise, it says, do not wear shatnez, a garment made from a combination of wool and linen, that you should make for yourselves tzitzis, of 4-cornered garments, right? Both things were said at the same time. Likewise, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife, or Yavama, Yavayaleh, and Yavam, the brother-in-law. Friends, have relations with her. Two opposites, right? God says 2 opposites. He says, remember Shabbos, guard the Shabbos. The 2 opposite ideas, right? Now he says, relations. A brother can't have relations with his brother's wife, except when she's a Levirate, right? When she had no children. Then the brother can't have relations with her. 2 opposites. God said them at the same time. And this is what it means, saying 2 things simultaneously. God spoke 1, and 2 were heard. Wow. Fascinating. Okay. Oh boy. 6 days you shall work. And you shall do all of your work in 6 days. Rashi, number 9, you should do all of your work. When Shabbos comes, as if your work has all been done. You should not reflect on forbidden work. Right? That's what it means. Do all your work. Why is the 10 Commandments have to tell you to do all of your work on the 6 days? I mean, of course, you can't do it on Shabbos, so why is it telling you? Because when you come to Shabbos, it should be all of your work, you should consider that it was done, that if you're in the middle of something, you were going to sign a contract for $1 million before Shabbos and you couldn't do it. Consider that it was done. Don't have it on your mind, that you're thinking about it on Shabbos. That's what Rashi just said.
Present tense?
No.
Past.
Yeah. That's, he said, and you shall. No, it's future, and you shall. Number 10. Sorry, I got to go very quickly because I'd like to finish. Okay. And the 7th day is a Sabbath to Hashem, your God. Do not do any kind of work. Ata, you, Ubincha, and your son, Ubitecha, and your daughter, Avdecha, and your servant, and your maidservant, also your animal, the gercha, asher b'sherecha, and the convert who is in your gates. Rashi, you, your son, and your daughter, these refer to small children. Or perhaps it means adult children. You can say to refute that they are already, regarding the observance of Shabbos, that they have to do it in their own right. So the verse is only coming to tell us that the adults have to make sure that the minors also abstain from work on Shabbos, right? It's their responsibility. This is what we've learned. The Chabais is Ein Shem Eloi. When a miner comes to extinguish a fire on Shabbos, we do not listen to him. Not that we don't allow him to do it. Because their abstaining of work is upon the parents. Number 11. Why are you keeping the Shabbos? Because for 6 days, Hashem did is Hashemayim. He made heaven, Aris and the earth, the Yam and the seas, and everything that's in them. And He rested on the 7th day. Therefore, by the way, this is the Kiddush that we say. This is the Kiddush we say Shabbos morning. Shabbos, afternoon, right there. Therefore, Hashem blessed the Shabbos day and sanctify it. Number 11. And He rested on the 7th day. Had he had the rest written about himself, as if it's possible to God, what I mean, he rested, he was tired. As it teaches us a kal v'chomer, from a light to a more stringent from him. For a person who really has to work 6 days with toil and exertion, that he should rest on Shabbos. In other words, if God, who doesn't need rest, rested on Shabbos, then the person who toils really very hard during the week, they got to rest on Shabbos. Got it? That's called all the more so. All the more so. That's called from a light to a heavier example, right? Kal v'chomer. God blessed and He sanctified it. How did He bless it? He gave a double portion of manna on the 6th day. Lechem nishna, called double bread. And He sanctified it with the respect that it didn't descend on Shabbos. Wow, that's interesting. Sanctifying the day, how? By not. Okay. Verse number 12. Honor your father and your mother, in order that you should have lengthy days on the land that Hashem God, your God, is giving to you. Number 12. In order your days should be lengthened. If you will honor your father and your mother, your days will be lengthened. Then your days will be shortened. That's what implication of the verses. Because the Torah is expounded from an abbreviated form to more expansive. Miklal hein lav, from the implication of the positive, you can get the negative. That's right. Miklal lav hein, and from the implication of the negative, you know what the positive is. Right. 13. Lo yisirtzach, do not murder. It doesn't say do not kill. Don't murder. Sirtzach. Lo yisinav, do not commit adultery. Lo yisignav, do not steal. Lo sa'aner v'recha et shaker, do not bear false witness against your friend. Lo yisachmed beis reyecha. Okay, that's the next verse. Okay, Rashi. Lo yisinav, do not commit adultery. Einuv ela be'eshetish. The term niyuv, illicit relations, is referring to a married woman. Right, Shenema is the verse of Yisha, because we'll see this later on in Leviticus, that's in reference to married man and woman. So and they should be put to death. And it says the adulterous woman will take strangers while married to her husband. Okay, do not steal. Again, in the Pasha calls Medaber, here it's speaking of kidnapping, stealing people. But when it comes to the verse that says do not steal, speaks of stealing money, and that's in Leviticus, right? Or maybe here it's speaking about stealing money, and later on it's speaking about kidnapping, because it's not clear from the words. So here we make a clarification because we learn it from learning from context, right? We have to learn from context. It's all in the same verse. Not to murder, not to commit adultery. Those two things are referring to if you murder or commit adultery, that you're liable for a court-imposed death penalty. Says basis. So likewise, not to steal has to be something that you'd be liable for a court imposes death penalty, and that would be only kidnapping. Good. 14. Lo sachmaid. Do not covet. Eishes re'echa, your friend's wife, the abdai, or his servant, balmasa, or his maidservant, the shar, or his cattle, ox, or his donkey, and anything that belongs to your friend. Amazing, we did it. Chazak, chazak, v'nis chazek. All right. Sorry that I was very quick and very tough, but if I'm tough,